winter markets, castles, winter markets. Let's go! Welcome to the third of my four-part video series on my trip on the Rhine River with Viking for the winter markets. And we'll start today with Koblenz.
So that you can start officially.
Viking provides included walking tours, and our walking tour started with this statue of William I at the German Corner. The German Corner is the confluence of the Rhine and the Moselle rivers. This is a Berlin Wall memorial with 3 panels. It was constructed to signify the reunification of Germany. Then we found ourselves walking past the Ludwig Museum with its art. Okay, this isn't the way this tour really was. We were going to the winter markets. We were going to do some shopping, but we had to see a few things that were historical. This town was pretty heavily hit in World War II. Understandably, after the war, they needed to build housing for the people, and so a lot of the housing is not super attractive and possibly going to be torn down. Certainly, though, it wasn't a total loss, and so there were some interesting things to see in the old town. For example, here's the Augen roller or eye roller, and watch the tongue. It deserves a slow motion close-up replay. During World War II, Allied bombers tried to avoid bombing cathedrals, not because of some religious conviction, but because they made great aiming points with their high towers. That way they could bomb places around it more accurately. It wasn't even 10 in the morning yet, so the winter markets were not open. This is the Jesuitenplatz winter market, which wasn't open yet. This made it easier to spot a really cool thing though. Look up at those dormer windows. It's an advent calendar. We decided to give things time to open up by having coffee here in this small shop. It's literally right on the square. Okay, then back to winter market stuff. This was our mid-morning meeting place for our return to the ship. Viking had arranged for us to have a free sample from this shop though, and we had to do that before we left. As we headed back out of town, we passed through one more Christmas market that was just coming to life. The afternoon itinerary was back to the buses, back to the boat, lunch, and then that part of the Rhine River cruise where we would see the Rhine castles.
So make sure you take all your things with you.
But as it turned out, we started seeing the castles before we even made it back to the ship. Shortly after reboarding, we were back underway. And one of the things you want to make sure you don't miss are the little villages and towns along the way. Also, if you're weirdly interested in trains like I am, you will definitely have your chance to see your share. Viking provides a map of all the castles that you'll be seeing, and there's also narration. And though it was quite chilly and a little bit windy, I decided to spend my time on the upper deck. Well, at least most of it. You'll see what I mean here in a couple minutes.
Hitzenach is a tiny little municipal district of Bockart. Cute little town.
See, train, narration, pretty little town.
It flows northward, emptying into the North Sea in the Netherlands, when it passes to 4 countries, creating 6 different country borders. It has 3 main sections: the Upper Rhine, which is from Basel, Switzerland, to Bingen, Germany.
Oh, come on, Dave, it wasn't that cold. This was the only day on the entire cruise that there was a significant number of people on the upper deck.
Now this cute castle is called Mouse Castle. It's a tiny castle, that's why it's called Mouse Castle.
Castle viewing was underway.
Castle with underground passages. It's hillsides and castles were red in the flare of hundreds.
If you guessed you're looking at the Lorelei Rock, you're right. Doesn't this look like a dream model train set?
On the site of an old Celtic settlement from 400 BC and a Roman military service camp. In 1237, Strasbourg Castle became subject to the Emperor alone, although Basel was able to pay 300 marks in silver to rid itself of Strasbourg.
That's our program director narrating the cruise, and once again we're getting really excellent information. Oh, and oh look, a train. Now there comes a time when it gets a little bit too cold outside and you come back indoors. And though you have the option to warm up with an alcoholic beverage, we opted for the self-service coffee station. Hey, it comes with cookies. All right, I'm warmed back up. Let's go back outside and see some more things. This is Pfalzgrafenstein Castle. It's in the middle of the Rhine, and a lot of emphasis was put on making sure I got a selfie here. And that's Gutenfels Castle. I'm supposed to take a selfie with it also. So I took an attempt at getting a selfie with both of them at once.
It's fantastic Bacharach wines. In the Middle Ages, a generic term for wine was Bacharach. The wine was then taken by land to Bacharach, where it was reloaded.
Again, let me emphasize, if you take this cruise, you'll get a lot of information about every castle and every small town.
Inhabitants.
Back inside, it was time for eggnog and tea sandwiches. Viking will do this a lot for you. They'll have these special events and special things. And as dusk approached, so did Rudesheim.
Yes.
In Rudesheim, the Tiafli was about a half-mile from the winter market. There is a tram for the passengers if you feel that you want to take it, but we decided to walk. Finally, at a winter market, in the evening, time for some Glühwein. Let's just say it's not going to be my favorite thing. Now, one thing I'll say that's not surprising really is that the winter markets are much more beautiful at night. The lighting really is something. After maybe an hour and a half, we returned to the ship, had a very nice dinner, and prepared for the next day. And look, it's the next day. Up and at 'em, while some people had to work, we had to go to breakfast. And after that breakfast, it was time for our next winter market. More often than not, you have to disembark and get on a bus to get to the part of town that you want to see, and this was no exception. Most of Mannheim is very modern, which sort of turns into a euphemism to rebuilt after the bombing of World War II. It's a very industrial city of about 300,000 people with good shopping and a good winter market. That's what we were here for, after all. That object you're going to see several times is the water tower. It's sort of the center of town, and it's definitely the center of the winter market. If I wanted to have something to complain about in this video, I think my complaint would be that Viking often brings you into these winter markets before they're even open. Luckily here we found a shopping street and spent some time just window shopping. And it wasn't really long before the market opened up. But please take note of the side of the window on which I'm on in this view. That's because I was in this ornament shop and I spent a lot of money on gifts. If you're a fan of the YouTube channel Honest Guide from Prague, you know why we had to get the Tredelnik. I guess it would be weird to go on a Viking river cruise that featured the winter markets and then not enjoy the winter markets, but I will say that this was a particularly good one too. But as I said, maybe we were here just a little bit too early.
Straight back on board, buckle up please.
After doing much of nothing for a couple hours, we reached Speyer, Germany. And here the agenda was a little bit different for Viking. We had a guide who walked us into town just to make sure we found it, I guess. But then we were free to do as we pleased. We had a cathedral and we had a winter market. So we went to a cathedral and then to the winter market. Before he took off, the guide told us a bit about the cathedral, and then we went in. We were there at just about closing time, but that was okay because the winter market was just across a small street. Once again, we saw similar decor, similar food, even similar crowds. But of all the winter markets, I really like this one right up toward the top. Let's give it a look around. Well, here's something we hadn't seen before. Now also, you knew that at some point in this video I would ask you if you would please subscribe to my channel and please like this video if indeed you liked this video. When you do that, YouTube shows my videos to more people, and I would really appreciate it if you would help that happen. The walk back from town to the ship was uneventful, which, come to think of it, is exactly the way you would want it to be. And it was dinner time. Let's find a place to sit in the open dining area, and let's have Chateaubriand tonight. Wonder how that'll be. It'll be good. The next morning I woke up at about 5 a.m. and this was the view outside the cabin. We were passing through the locks. I'm not sure why I find this process so fascinating, but I do. The locks can accommodate 2 river cruisers at the same time. In fact, knowing that, Emma, a competitor of Viking, has a double-wide riverboat. Once we had risen all the way up, we were on our journey again. Definitely interesting, but I gotta go back to bed for at least a couple more hours. The next morning we awoke to find ourselves on the German side of the Rhine, across from Strasbourg. There's a much smaller town called Kell there, and I'm going to do a separate video about it. And here you see the swan rooms living up to their name. We boarded buses to cross the bridge and go to Strasbourg itself.
Black Tower covered by solar panels.
After about a quarter hour, we disembarked and began our foot journey into the town. This part of town is La Petite France. And here there are several bridges, including covered bridges. But these bridges are not over the Rhine. There's a system of canals here in Strasbourg. And as you walk along those canals, you'll see some magnificent homes, or at least they used to be homes. Now there's some businesses and restaurants. With canals come locks. Though they weren't quite like the ones on the Rhine, they were still interesting to see and functioning. And then we entered the challenge of walking past French pastries and cookies. Some of the shopkeepers saw the guided walking tours coming, and they came outside with samples for us. There was no shortage of tempting pastries to buy either. Strasbourg Cathedral famously only has one tower. Supposedly if they'd built the second, the ground would have been too unstable and it might have all collapsed. But as you approach, don't forget to look around. It's a very interesting part of town. The cathedral's facade is amazing. Just beyond the visitor's entrance is the astronomical clock. Very impressive. If you're a fan of stained glass, you're going to love this cathedral. I wish I had spent more time studying each window. You will exit next to, but not through, a very nice gift shop. Just outside the cathedral, the Christmas market was coming to life. As you would imagine, not every market opens at the same time. This one was opening at 11 a.m. And now we had some free time. We decided to use it to go back to the earlier Christmas market and also get a cup of coffee. While the winter markets in Germany, France, and Switzerland are generally the same, I enjoyed hearing the French. And it really wouldn't be my video if I didn't give you a look at a cup of coffee. So here goes. But then it was time to leave the capital of Christmas and head back to our boat. That involved our guide taking us on a fast-paced march through the city. Even so, I managed to see this Starbucks and other more interesting things. It's hard to beat a town in Europe decorated for the holidays. Here's a tip. The stuffed animal storks make a really good gift for a young child. And just in case you want one, you can get a Christmas tree too. So we're back to the Viking Tiafli, but I still have 3 days to tell you about. Hope you'll come back and watch that video too. Remember, subscribe.